Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the weekly review. It has been a few weeks, but we are back, and I'm glad to be back with my boy, the RWT Deadman himself, Mr. Paul Morales. How are you, Paul?
I am fine. How are you, Mr. Larkin?
Dude, it is good. It is always a good time talking to you. A lot has happened in the world of professional wrestling, as we know. Next week is the Elimination Chamber, which we will be discussing in the episode after this one. But, dude, Matt Camp, we'll start here. Matt Camp, longtime member of the Bump, has been released by the WWE.
Man, I am feeling this one just like I felt Kevin Patrick, man. I am deeply saddened. But speaking of Kevin Patrick, actually, he got another job.
Yes, we'll go back to soccer, right?
The dude's going back to play football, announcing it, actually. Not play it, but he's going back to announce it, you know what I'm saying? But at least, hey, dude landed on his feet, and Matt Camp will land on his feet somewhere, probably somewhere.
My thing with him is he was always funny on the panels and with the Bump, and I think it's a shock for me because he's been there since like 2019-ish, 2018.
Yeah. He's been there for about 5 years actually since they started. Actually, he was there when it started. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, and I mean, what is it now? Just going to be Caleb Braxton, whoever that crew is now on the Bump.
Yeah, I believe that's who it's going to be for right now. Unless they find, I'm pretty sure they're going to find a replacement. Maybe Jackie, whatever the hell her name is.
Or Jackie Redmond.
Jackie Redmond may actually join the show, or somebody else.
My thing too is when you
R-Truth should host the show with them.
Oh, I would love that. That would be hilarious. But you look at a guy like Kevin Patrick, first of all, going back to football is more his thing to cover that than pro wrestling. And then Matt Camp, like you mentioned, I think he's going to fall on his feet. And it's crazy to think, like, we see a lot of releases coming out of nowhere. I think those two are Kevin Patrick, not so much, but Matt Camp was very surprising. And we'll go to this one, was also very surprising because you want to talk about releases, Mr. Paul Morales. TNA Total Nonstop Action Wrestling has come back. But Scott D'more, not so much. Scott D'more was relieved of his duties as the president of Total Nonstop Action Wrestling.
I know that was very, very disappointing to come to this past week. The fact that they were having this whole rebrand, that he was the driving force behind it. Uh-huh. And, he motivates all those wrestlers that are there. I mean, they've already, since his firing, have already showed support for him. And already called for "We Want Scott" on social media, and already pinned a letter to Anthem Sports telling them their dismay. And it's just going to be a whole lot of wrestlers that may actually leave the company, and that would be sad to say, given that he's such a lovable character. I mean, a lovable person. I mean, both backstage and amongst the wrestlers, I mean, they have nothing but high praise for that man. And I mean, I know he's going to land maybe in AEW, maybe WWE, but it doesn't matter where he lands at. I mean, he's valuable.
I think, as we see in this article here from Wrestling News, Scott D'more is out as the TNA president as Anthony Cicione replaced him. I'm going to say it's Cicione. Yeah. I probably got butchered that, but hey, that dude now who's brought WWE to many different channels. I mean, he's another executive. He's been with Anthem. For me, I mean, this afternoon, the meeting was held between management and talent to inform them of the news, as well as to introduce a new president who will be handling the day-by-day operations. Anthem head Len Asper was on the call as well. It was said by many stars that management said D'more had stepped down from the company, which was not the case. The company even said that wasn't the case in its statement to the media. PW Insider reports they were told by several that this did not sit well with some of the talents. As one wrestler said, this wasn't the way to start a relationship with talent. Several wrestlers have a strong connection with D'more and most liked working with him. Cicione read what was described as a prepared statement, which some people didn't like, while others understood he was in a no-win situation. Nothing specific was stated about creative going forward, although the remainder of the creative team, beyond Scott D'more, is still with the company. Talent could not ask questions, which did endear some talent to the changes, and some wrestlers were very angry about the news. The meeting did not allow talents to ask any questions, which we can confirm did not endear some talents to the changes. At the beginning of the call, when talents were informed about Scott D'more's departure before Anthem executives joined them, they were very angry with some talents. One TNA personality said Anthem had a lot of work to do moving forward. The story making the rounds is about how Anthem wanted TNA to be more in line with the parent company going forward, as they felt the brand had been too D'More-centric with Scott as the face of the company. Wow.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that Scott actually, prior to them releasing him, I guess when he went in for this conversation or talk with Anthem Sports, he actually tried to buy them out. He actually made them an offer, and they turned it down. So the fact that he wanted to be there, and he felt in his heart that this roster was put together basically by him. This wasn't Anthem. This was him. So these are like any father, any parent, that these are your kids. These are, granted, a lot of them are grown adults, but still, on the fact is that this is his baby. These people are there a lot, partly because of Scott. And, the fact that he's gone now, and this guy, Anthony Cisneros, or whatever the hell his name is, ain't nobody care, but still, the fact that he's there and Scott's not, it's going to reflect on everybody in the locker room.
I could see there's top talent there like Moose, Josh Alexander. I could see a lot of them, Jordan Grace even, going or maybe asking for them a release. I look at it from a stance too as well. Like, these are the people that they believed in, that they loved, and then all of a sudden, here goes Scott out the door. He helped TNA get together. He helped the relationship with TNA and the WWE for the Royal Rumble's sake. Jordan Grace has said that it was Scott D'more who got her to, get into the Royal Rumble. So it's sad. And if I was WWE, I would take him up. If I was AEW, I'd take him up. I think he's going to be an asset to any company that he works with.
Exactly. No matter where he goes, he's going to be an asset to the company. And you can pull talent, and especially now that he does have a relationship. If he's already been in contact with Triple H, if he's been in contact with him, through them asking, for Jordan Grace, even Nick Khan, and whoever reached out to him to ask about Jordan coming in to do the Royal Rumble, I'm pretty certain that now that they know that he's gone, that could be a relationship for them too.
Agreed, but I will say this about relationships as we move on to the next story. Oh my goodness, Stardom, and Stardom. Let's get into this one. It appears that one of the World Wonder Ring Stardom's founders has been fired from the company, as Stardom president Tara Okada announced the firing of Stardom founder and booker Rossy Ogawa, who is accused of poaching talent from the all-women's pro wrestling promotion. Meanwhile, the Wrestling Observer newsletter is reporting President Okada and merchandise manager Oyama will take over Ogawa's previous duties. Ogawa had begun to be overruled by Bushiroad Fight leadership around 9 months ago, leading to him initially put in his notice with the company, which Stardom accepted. Ogawa's initial end date was February 18th, with the last show under his supervision being the February 4th show in Osaka. The company then decided to fire Ogawa after the February 4th show, citing the accusations of talent poaching as the reason. Stardom star Julia is rumored to be heading for WWE following her departure from Stardom in 2023, but there is no word on whether it was released to the accused poaching. Stardom is a business partner of New Japan Pro Wrestling, both under Bushiroad, and the company's talent has been the backbone of NGPW's IWGP Women's Championship, which was established in November 2022. The current champion, Mayu Iwatani, is said to be the longest contracted to Stardom's current talent, as the champion has a movie about her life currently in production. AEW President Tony Khan celebrated Okawa's firing, writing by Rossy on X, previously known as Twitter, as well as sharing a clip from the 1966 film Batman related to industrial espionage, suggesting that Okawa has meddled in Khan and AEW's affairs. Now, I am not shocked that Tony Khan would take a shot at Ogawa.
I'm not shocked either, but the fact is that he took the shot, and well, we know he ain't going to AEW.
No. I see people like Kyrie Sane there, who was a focal part of Stardom. If I was WWE, I would not pick him up. I'm sure there's going to be a relationship with Japan, but if I was WWE, I would want nothing to do with Ogawa.
I think it'll all depend on where he wants to go. If he wants to come to the States, you're talking about people who've already worked for him. We're talking about Kyrie. We're talking about Io. Io. We're also talking about Asuka, who also had a working relationship with him. So all these female competitors, it doesn't mean that he couldn't come to WWE, but I mean, in hindsight, I'm looking at it from a business standpoint. I mean, I wouldn't want him, but hey, who knows? I mean, it is WWE, but I mean, for purposes, I mean, and I don't see him wanting to come to the States to want to work for a company here, but maybe want to do something else somewhere else, or maybe he might even want to start up his own promotion, and do his own thing.
I look at it from a stance too as well. Whatever he does within the Japanese realm and the Japanese professional wrestling, I think he'll thrive. But with everything that's going on, he had to go. And I mean, my thing is too, I mean, did they have any interference with Tony Khan's affairs? I don't know, but I looked at Tony Khan's tweet and I'm like, of course he would do that because Tony is Tony. But I mean, it is what it is. And I think with everything that's going on, I mean, a lot of people have lost jobs this week, like we mentioned with Matt Camp and Ogawa and Scott D'more. It's just been very interesting to see the shakeups that we have in the world of professional wrestling. And speaking of shakeups, something that we just found out right before recording, Mr. Paul Morales, are you ready? Because here we go. He's back, or at least for this promotion. Velveteen Dream returns to the ring in surprising fashion. Pro wrestling gets in your blood, and it's hard to get out once you've started. Even for controversial figure, they find a way back in. Now Velveteen Dream is making his mark in the pro wrestling world in his own way. Years after his WWE release, Velveteen Dream, now known as Patrick Clark, returned to wrestling, stepping back into the ring at Dynasty in Albany, New York. This is a big surprise that nobody saw coming. And I got to ask you, the fact that we now have the Velveteen Dream back at an indie show, as you can see here, what are your thoughts? And let me just play this so we can see what he had to say.
Swiping stairs back there. If there's anybody who wanted to get started tonight, if there's anybody who wanted to dream, real dream, the Velveteen Dream!
So as you can see there was a small clip of what we saw with the Velveteen Dream, Patrick Clark, at an indie show. What are your thoughts on the Velveteen Dream coming back into the world of professional wrestling? We talked about the apology video in our previous episodes. What are your thoughts on seeing Patrick Clark back at an indie?
Well, I believe when we discussed this the last time, we said he would eventually end up on the indie scene. That's where he was going to get his start, his beginning at. And I think if I'm a betting man, and I know that God damn it, I'm freaking blanking on his damn name right now.
Which one?
NWA.
Oh, freaking
Billy Corgan.
Billy Corgan.
God dang it.
Smashing Pumpkins.
God dang it, Smashing Pumpkins. Good Lord. Anyways, Billy Corgan might actually take a shot at it. I mean, it all depends. I mean, he was apparently cleared of everything, and I get it. Controversial figure. WWE isn't going to necessarily take him back. So if you're going to make a name for yourself, you might as well make it on the indies. So
agreed.
He's going to end up doing the worldwide tour, may end up in GCW, may end up in NWA. We don't know. I mean, I wish him all the best, but a lot of people are either for it or against it. So pick a side.
I mean, for me, there's a story there if he was to go to NWA, because him and EC3 have had beef. So there's something. If Billy Corgan actually wants to play on real life beef, there you go for NWA. I don't know, man. Like, I mean, first of all, WWE ain't gonna touch him, number one. And number two, I mean, I wish him well too. I mean, he's such an underrated talent, and he was such a star on the rise before everything happened. But hey, if he's got his life together and he wants to get back out there, God bless him. I wish him the best too. So let's see where Patrick Clark ends up and where we get to see more of that Velveteen Dream, DREAM, is on the professional wrestling scene.
Exactly.
Whew. And now,
segue.
Yes, we're going to happen to be dreaming on a lot of great dreams. The American dream of Cody Rhodes is in. We got Roman and Cody now at WrestleMania. The press conference from Las Vegas, Nevada. Oh my God. This is bullshit. We brought out the family tree. We brought back heel rock. We brought back the slap. They would be ashamed of you if their grandfathers were still there. I loved this press conference.
You know what? I died laughing at a lot of it. The fact that he did this whole family tree thing, and he came out, he slapped Cody. I'm gonna take a hot little take on this because this is just me, and this is just what I do.
Mhm.
So why does it seem like now we moved Roman Reigns to the back and moved The Rock to the front?
Okay.
It just seems like who is at the head of the table now? We don't know, because apparently the only person that got a name up on that was the fact that, okay, let me start there. The Rock's name on that family tree said High Chief Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And Roman's just said Joseph Anawai. Roman Reigns. Didn't say head of the table. And that's the weird part. So everybody is dissecting everything that's on there. The one name that was missing off of there was actually Zilla. And everybody pointed that out too. The fact that Jacob Fatu was on there, but Zilla wasn't. So now we're looking at this and like, okay, so what is coming next? Reality of Wrestling, Booker T actually has Zilla there with him. So are we looking at the stepping stone for both Zilla and Jacob to get up into the WWE, into this bloodline thing? I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing this out there. So my daughter actually has a theory on the WrestleMania match between Cody and Roman Reigns, which she actually heard online too. So she said, I wouldn't be surprised if the person that comes out for or wants to help Cody on night one would be Stone Cold Steve Austin. Because remember, Rock and Stone Cold have a history. So we can kind of play off of that too. So I'm kind of leaning on what my daughter said, because my daughter's smart and she's been watching all kinds of stuff. So maybe we might put it out there into the universe and it may actually happen.
I like how you manifested that, because I think that would be a great contrast with Stone Cold and The Rock, and Stone Cold and the respect that he has for the Rhodes family. I personally loved on SmackDown where he was wearing the 99-2000 jacket again. He was heel Rock. He was full-on heel Rock. He was Hollywood Rock. If you smell what the bloodline is cooking, he threw up the ones. I felt like I was back in 1997 watching the Nation of Domination with the fists. Dude, everybody pointed out as well that when he was talking about, I'm going to make sure you're a loser at WrestleMania, he was pointing this direction, and Roman was in that direction. So people are also analyzing, dissecting, and deciphering, is Rock going to be the one who screws Roman Reigns?
You know what? Everybody's doing the same thing that I was doing and the same thing my daughter was doing, because we were on the same page. She was seeing the same thing we were. So the fact that he pointed that way, pointed at Roman Reigns and said, you're going to be a loser at WrestleMania. The fact that he didn't throw up a 1, but he threw up an L, not necessarily a 1, but hey, everybody else was throwing up their 1s. He was the only one that looked like he was saying loser. But hey, we have no idea. We're just going to kind of play along with this and kind of go along with the storyline. And hey, if it pans out to where we end up getting them at, maybe night 2, maybe night 1, I don't know, somewhere around there. It just would be interesting to see what we get for WrestleMania. I'm stuck on this now. We all stuck on it. See where it goes.
I mean, the Seth Rollins promo on Raw where he was saying he'll be Cody's Shield was such an amazing promo. If nobody's watched it, go back and watch it. I like that the interaction between the two. I'm looking forward to, at the Elimination Chamber, him and Cody will be on the Grayson Waller effect with Grayson Waller because of the Australia tie-in, and I think there will be some angle that goes down with Roman and The Rock that will lead to possibly a tag match down the line.
You know what? I'm so Elimination Chamber. We have the 6 men that have already qualified for it. We will discuss that maybe next Friday with our next review, and the night before Elimination Chamber. By then we'll have all the women already set. But what's interesting is are they really going to have Seth wrestle 2 nights in a row?
With that injury, I wouldn't risk it.
I wouldn't risk it either. So hence why everybody keeps thinking somebody is going to come back to help him and not be if they're going to have this tag team match on Saturday for night 1 and night 2 is going to be Roman versus Cody. Somewhere along this line, something is bound to happen. Are we going to see the initial break of the bloodline to go into 2 different factions? Are we going to see Cody finally finish his story and end up, hoisting that title and finally, giving it something, I guess, defending it more often than Dwayne has or than Roman has in the last 3 years. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see and sit back and enjoy it as wrestling fans.
Agreed. And I mean, also coming out of SmackDown, we found out that Braun Breaker is now on the SmackDown roster, one half of the NXT Tag Team Champions, the Wolf Dogs. Oof, oof, oof. I like it. I mean, Braun being on that brand, like he can go whoever they put him against or whatever program they put him in, I'm for it. Like, I think this dude is just pure money.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he was on there, and I'm going to go back to what we were talking about for the Royal Rumble, the fact that he took Brock Lesnar's spot in the Royal Rumble, it's kind of looking like we'll end up getting that Dominic and Braun Breaker match for Elimination Chamber, but we won't know until next week. But no, the fact that he's on there, the fact that he's there, I don't know. And now that you mentioned it, now that I remember that you just mentioned it, the fact that him and Baron fucking Corbin are the NXT Tag Team Champions, which they won this past week. And congratulations to both of them. I love this new Baron Corbin character, which is kind of the reprise of the Lone Wolf that he had in NXT the first time around before Vince decided to bring him up and, fuck him up. I love the fact that he even posted the day that that after the night that they won, that this was a rebirth. The fact that Triple H, sent him to NXT and that he rebranded his whole character. He kind of went back to what he used to be. And, it kind of gave him a new life, new sense of life in NXT, and he's enjoying it and relishing every single moment. So the fact that he's there and he's with Braun and they're doing their damn thing down there, kudos to them and congratulations to the dogs,
the Wolf Dogs.
Dogs.
Oof. Oh man, I love the tag team too. I like the fact that he put that photo up of, hey, the last time I was a champion was the U.S. Championship in 2017 when he beat AJ Styles and Ty Dillinger in a triple threat. And then now he's a champion 6 years later, man. And now he's freaking doing the damn thing. We're going on 7 years of the fact that him and Braun Breaker beating the family, the Stu Nods, if you will, Paisan, of Tony D'Angelo and Stax. I'm for it. I think the tag team is very funny. And that also means more of him on NXT, more of him on SmackDown. Just sign me up for it. I'm down. And I mean, NXT, I got to say, first and foremost, they're going more with Carmelo Hayes being that dick. The fact that they were chanting, fuck you, Mello, and the production team had to come out and say, hey, we're going to have to go off the air if y'all keep chanting, fuck you, Mello, here on the USA Network. We're going to have to go off the air if y'all don't freaking stop. He's garnered so much great heat. Him and Trick Williams is going to be awesome. I like the Ilya Dragunov Dijak exchange, and then we're going to get Ilya and Carmelo once more, but this time with Carmelo being a heel. I think what they have going into Roadblock, also going into Stand and Deliver, these shows have just been cooking, man. They have been cooking.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see how Sean gets this. I mean, the roster's already stacked, but then and they're just improving, and WWE is the main roster. Actually, Paul's actually moving wrestlers up to the main roster to kind of fluctuate, to get them all acclimated to what is on the main roster and what you get in NXT, and showcasing all these young talent. And I like the way that Triple H is doing it on both Raw and SmackDown, how he's allowing these young wrestlers to come in and do what Vince never would have done.
Right. And I think the fact that they're cross-promotioning and they're cross-promoting with brands and intertwining has always the way it should have been, instead of just having them being exclusive to NXT and exclusive to Raw and SmackDown. The fact that we're having NXT stars go to SmackDown or Raw, it works. It helps them get better. It helps them learn and adapt for when they do go to the full roster completely. But, I mean, I think the way that everything is being booked makes a whole lot of sense. And also just the fact that a lot of the veterans like Baron Corbin, a lot of the older stars that we've seen are getting more rejuvenation and just a rebrand, if you will. I dig it. So I say continue more with that. But I have to say this about NXT because this ties into our next topic. A lot of people thought this guy signed to NXT, and it looks like he is AEW bound. Kazuchika Okada looks to be on his way. According to Fightful, looks to be going to AEW.
Yeah, and it looks like it. And what I'm not mad at it.
No.
I completely get it. You know, you want to be around a bunch of familiar faces. Not that he wouldn't have had the exact same familiar faces that he wouldn't have had it, or he would have found in WWE. I mean, he already knew AJ. He already knew Shinsuke. Gallows and Anderson are two guys that he already knew from the Bullet Club. Prince Devitt, you know. Finn Balor, he knows him. So familiar faces, you know, and that he would have found in WWE. So the fact that he's going to AEW is not really a big surprise, but, you know, I would have thought he would have tried WWE to see what he could have done against someone like Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes. Not that he didn't face him when Cody was over in New Japan. But again, you want to go somewhere where you think you're going to be built up and, you know, done right. Hey, go to AEW. Enjoy yourself, man. I'm not mad. I look forward to see what he does.
Same. I think him and Samoa Joe for the World's Heavyweight Championship would be a banger. I think a lot of people that he's wrestled with before will absolutely do the damn thing, but I'm excited to see what Okada brings to the table in AEW. And I mean, one of the things also that we've seen him that's really gone through tables and just everything being put on the table is the injury bug, as we saw Shotzi Blackheart. And I mean, the NXT tapings are taped. Looks like she got injured in her match with Lyra Valkyria. And I mean, she might be out with a knee injury, which is horrible to hear and horrible to see. They replaced her last night on SmackDown in the qualifying matches. Jeff Hardy got busted open in the nose from a botched shooting star press by Sammy Guevara.
That was harsh.
That was harsh. Everybody's been getting a little bit of the injury bug, man. And I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see where we go forward. Our girl, poor Nikita Lyons, looks like she got hurt again, and she just came back. So, man, it's always something.
I think it's more or less she tweaked the same. She had the same injury. She came back a little too fast. It's still a little bit of, I want to say it's still going to be an adjustment to what she's already doing, but hey, she'll bounce back, and she'll be gone for maybe a couple weeks or something like that, but she'll bounce back. Cora Jade, another one, man. That was another one we'd already talked about that, but man, that girl's already out there working out, so much like Charlotte and much like CM Punk are already getting beginning their rehab process. So we look forward to seeing all those back, you know, sometime soon.
I also will say this as far as the women go. I'm loving the advancement of the Bayley Io Sky storyline. The fact that they had Io, Kairi, and Asuka run her down in Japanese and the subtitles, much like Nakamura's doing on Raw. Yeah. And then you had Dakota saying, hey, I'll help you out. And you know what I'm saying? But Bayley can't trust her. You know what I'm saying? So I like the direction that they're going in. Whose side is Dakota on? I like the badassery of the new Damage Control, Kairi, Io, and Asuka. So I'm here for the WrestleMania build. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, and this is going to be an interesting one, especially coming forward. Once we get to, we'll see what happens right after Elimination Chamber to see where everybody is placed. But, you know, we already know we got Bayley and Io for the Women's World Championship, or for the WWE Women's Championship at WrestleMania. So whatever happens next after that, you know, we'll just have to wait and see.
That we do. And I think everything that we've talked about thus far really leads to a positive role going towards Elimination Chamber next week, which we'll talk about and predict. But I got to say, 5 o'clock in the morning, folks, next Saturday for yours truly here, and 2 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast. It's going to be an early morning next Saturday.
Fuck you. I'd much rather have the 5 a.m. than have the fucking 2 a.m. You know what? I already told my daughter that I go, if you don't want to get up to watch it, or if you don't want to stay up with me and watch it, I said, that's fine. She goes, I may take a nap during the day. She goes, and I'll watch it with you. And I said, okay, because that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and get to bed early on Friday. So, yeah.
Same. And I mean,
I don't know. I just, I mean, you got you could get up at like 4:30 in the morning and watch it at 5 a.m., have coffee. You know what I'm saying? I got to have coffee up in the middle of the night and be like, man, I'm over here picking mocos out my eyes, picking these little burgers out my eyes, over here like, man, I'm over here trying to keep my eyelids open like this. So, dude, at least you got the 5 a.m. wake up call, man.
True. It's kind of like when they did Beast in the East. Remember that from 2015, where they started at like 4 o'clock in the morning for Brock Lesnar, Kofi Kingston, and all those.
Yeah, exactly, man. You know what? It's gonna be interesting with all these international shows, especially like Berlin and Lyon, France, and those are gonna be mornings, basically mornings for me, midday for you. So we're going to see how that one goes. You're going to actually, I think the one in Lyon is going to be about 10 a.m. for you. So maybe about 7 a.m. for me. So, I'll be drinking coffee in that morning. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you send me money for breakfast. All right, man. That's all I'm saying. Send me money for breakfast, man.
Dude, it's the international expansion. And I think it's going to be really good going forward for WWE and just professional wrestling in general. So I think we started off light here, and we've covered a lot that's really been going on the past week. The biggest thing was the press conference, and the biggest thing is The Rock, and the biggest thing is all the departures and everything. But unfortunately, through every evoking of emotions that we have within our content and in professional wrestling and life in itself, we now turn to the last part of the show, Mr. Paul Morales, and we are going to be talking about Miss Ashley Massaro. And a lot has come out. This poor woman, God rest her soul. We're going to play the interview with her best friend on News Nation. But first, we are going to read the affidavit. And all I just want to say is, for Vince McMahon, fuck yourself. Oh, here we go. So this statement reads as follows. It's been reproduced verbatim as it was provided to Vice News, with the exception of one redaction. During my time at the WWE, I had observed Vince McMahon making out with other divas in the locker room, but he never paid attention to me, and I assumed I was not his type. This changed after my Playboy cover was released. I was fortunate enough to be allowed to fly on the company jet and stay at the same hotels as the executives for a period of time so that I could get home faster and spend more time with my daughter. On one of these occasions, Vince was attempting to get me alone with him in his hotel room late at night, and I felt extraordinarily uncomfortable. He began calling the hotel room phone and my cell phone nonstop. I called Kevin Dunn to explain the situation. He said I would tell Vince I was not feeling well and we would see him on TV the next day. So I did. Immediately after that night, Vince started writing my promos for me. Vince does not write promos for female wrestlers. This is the job of the creative department, and he certainly wouldn't have, under any normal circumstances, written a promo for me. But he did, and the promos were written with the clear intention of ruining my career. I brought the first script Vince wrote for me to the NXT employee and head in charge of creative at the time, Michael Hayes, and he said, "You're not saying this. Who the fuck wrote this?" And I told him that Vince did. He said, "Well, kid, these are the breaks," meaning that Vince wanted to end my career and destroy my reputation on my way out. He is known for this type of behavior, as also that he did this to Redacted upon her departure from WWE. In addition, after that night, each time I walked by him, he would make vulgar sexual comments that were clearly designed to make me feel uncomfortable. We will start there. Your thoughts?
You know, the more and more that a lot of this, a lot more that comes out when as it pertains to Vince, we're starting to see more and more of the patterns. I don't want you to play it, and please, I mean, you'll probably put up a picture of those twin idiots from that got thrown into prison over in, I think, England or something like that. I guess he did a podcast and he was talking about what the woman had gotten, what Janelle Grant had gotten, and then he was like, "Oh, well, that doesn't say sex trafficking, or that, the fact that she got all these payments," and he said none of that screams sex trafficking. And it's like, well, he wouldn't be the foremost person to go to as far as sex trafficking goes. But the more and more what comes out about Vince, it becomes disheartening. The fact that this man went from being who he was in the eyes of a lot of people, and yeah, he was a pervert. Yeah, he did what he did, but that things like this don't justify it. Nothing he's done justifies anything. Now, Janelle Grant, you're going to play the interview in a minute, but I'll start with what she said was very damning to not just WWE, but the names that she mentioned, because we don't know how far into the company this really truly went, and we're going by what she said. Ashley isn't here to defend herself. Unfortunately, she took her own life back in 2019.
Uh-huh.
And it's painful to listen to her best friend talk about all this, knowing that the names that she mentioned are involved in this. Of course, we go back to what John Laurinaitis is doing, who is not going to be the fall guy, and he's throwing Vince McMahon under the bus every chance he gets, and through his attorney telling everybody, "Hey, I'll whistle blow all I want, because you know what, I am not taking the fall for any of this." And I don't blame him. If he had maybe some involvement in certain things, then hey, cool. But ever since then, I mean, you know what, I'm not even going to continue on what I was going to say, but you know what, just play the clip and then we'll talk after it.
Oh yeah, we'll go after that, because I do have some things as well to say, because it all makes sense. So this clip is of Cara Pipia. I hope I got that correct. Friend of Ashley Massaro, a former WWE star who accused Vince McMahon of covering up an alleged rape, joined Banfield to discuss the allegations made. And we have the full 5 minutes here that was posted on Twitter. If you refuse to call it X. So here we go. Let me play it. Here we go.
As I read the account, it seemed as though she was sort of semi-conscious and paralyzed, meaning she knew what was happening but couldn't scream, couldn't move.
Absolutely.
Which is often a state of anesthesiology.
Right, that's right. I have my opinions on that as well. So when Ashley first started working for the WWE, she told me in the locker rooms, it was like they handed out Soma like it was candy.
Soma?
Soma. It's a muscle relaxer.
Okay.
So it was what they would give the wrestlers when they were injured, because there was no not wrestling.
Sure.
You had a broken arm, you take a Soma, you wrestle. So at that point, she had become addicted to Somas. So she was already in this state. And so whatever they administered to her rendered her helpless. Her body was useless to her, but her mind was there, and she saw what was happening.
And she said to you she was raped and sodomized in that room multiple times. Ultimately, it's just hard to believe that she says that a WWE executive carried her out of that room and to her hotel room.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. He wrapped a blanket around her. He wrapped a blanket around her and carried her out, because she still, when he came and got her, she was still limp. She still wasn't able to move her body
on her own.
Right.
It sort of defies belief, but she said to you, and correct me if I'm wrong, she said to you that they left her, not only left her in that hotel room, they left her in Kuwait alone.
Yeah.
How did she get back?
She was, they got her a flight. Days after everyone else was already home. She was left alone because they had to go back to work. Vince wanted them back in the USA because they had work to do.
It's unbelievable. She said to you that she told the WWE
absolutely
Specifically, who did she tell?
Well, the gentleman who wraps her in the blankets, he was an executive for the company. So, at the scene, you have an executive. As soon as she got back to the States, and I mean, she had the phone calls while she was in Kuwait. I mean, it was out from the beginning, right after it happened. As soon as she was able to talk on the phone and get
did it go right to Vince
right
McMahon?
to the top, right to the top.
She spoke with Vince McMahon.
She spoke with Vince McMahon many times. Vince had his daughter,
Stephanie McMahon,
take his place because she was a female, a woman, and to make Ashley comfortable, and they just played with her. They played with her because everything that Stephanie had made her feel comfortable and safe about. As soon as they walked into this boardroom meeting, Ashley was on her own completely, and she was threatened, and there was no compassion, there was no sympathy, there was nothing.
So Ashley Massaro, your best friend, told you that she went into a boardroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the WWE, where Stephanie McMahon, Vince McMahon, and other executives were seated.
The entire
And that's where she was told this has to stay under wraps.
That is right. And she had, right before she walked into that boardroom, she talked to the locker room doctor, who was aware of everything, and he was actually very sympathetic to her, but he had no pull. So he gave her the advice that he could, and but that was it. You
heard me reading the statement from the WWE earlier, which is effectively, at no time did we hear anything about these allegations about a doctor, a nurse, an assault in Kuwait. We knew nothing about this. And then after the Janelle Grant lawsuit, one of the men who's named as an abuser of Janelle Grant is John Laurinaitis, another executive at WWE. Right. And his lawyer is acknowledging that John Laurinaitis did know. I mean, when you heard that, it's been years since Ashley took her life. When you heard John Laurinaitis' lawyer acknowledge that Ashley had told them, that the WWE was not telling the truth, what was your reaction?
It's about time somebody has a conscience, because there was never a single moment of time that I didn't believe a word that Ashley told me.
So if you had an opportunity to say something to Vince McMahon, what would it be?
Well, that's the question I hadn't thought about. Shame on you. Like, how do you look at yourself? How do you look at the mirror? I mean, obviously he's got problems. He's a sexual deviant. He needs help. He's not well. So the problem is that people with that kind of sickness and mindset and power why do they thrive for so long? Why doesn't anybody stand up? Why are there so many people in that company aware of what's going on to hold these women who keep committing suicide year after year after year, and nobody stands up and says anything? No one tries to protect these young women. Why? Because it's not just Vince, it's the whole freaking company.
Do you think that what happened to Ashley, as she recounted to you, do you think that contributed to her suicide?
99%. Absolutely.
Kara, Papia, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I'll let you go first, and then I'll get into more info.
No, you go first.
Okay, bro.
I'll let you go first.
All right, man. So, Ashley Massaro is a fellow Long Islander like myself. We all first saw Ashley Massaro, 2005 Diva Search. She was known for the one who gave her phone number out for the votes, leaving messages for fans and all that. For me, when I saw her on screen, and a lot of the talent have come out and said it, Maria Kanellis, Candice Michelle, beautiful soul, just happy, vibrant. For me, and I mean, a lot of the videos have surfaced from 2006 with Vince going towards the New Year's Revolution pay-per-view, talking about wanting to see a bra and panties gauntlet match and staring at her derriere. And then, of course, before she goes to do Survivor, let's humiliate her by suspending her and just making her feel useless on the way out before to go do Survivor. And then she would come back, and then 2008 was when she got released. It's heartbreaking to me, man, because I mean, I also, when you look at she talks about the Playboy, like when she was Playboy cover girl in 2007, it reminds me of the time period of 04 to 08, and you can attest to this, Paul, and any wrestling fan can. Like 2004 WrestleMania 20 through 24, it was featured with the women in Playboy, like Tori and Sable against Miss Jackie and Stacy Keibler, the Playboy pillow fight. 2005, Trish Stratus and Christy Hemme for the women's championship. 2006, Tori Wilson and Candice Michelle Playboy pillow fight. 2007, Melina versus Ashley. 2008, Ashley and Maria against Beth Phoenix and Melina. So there's that common thread there. And I mean, just for everything that went down in Kuwait in 2006, I mean, we saw a lot of the evidence from the WWE vlogs back in the day where she was just like, I'm so happy that, this company keeps me safe. And that breaks my heart reading that, knowing what happened here. And then you hear about everything with Stephanie McMahon. I know a lot of people are going after Stephanie McMahon. There's also the story of how when Ashley first came up to the main roster, like she knew that she was not ready to be on that main roster. She had requested to go to OVW and learn more. I know on Long Island, New York Wrestling Connections right there, she wanted to take classes, and she told WWE that. She told Stephanie McMahon. She told Vince. And from what the story is recanted and told is that they said no, because if she goes down there and she doesn't stay on the main roster, she loses her spot. So we saw her get injured a lot. She broke her wrist. She got a concussion, and there was talks that Trish Stratus at the time, who was helping train her along with Fit Finley, Trish Stratus said to her, shake it off, because that was the mentality of professional wrestlers back in the day before the concussion protocol and what we have now. It's just a lot of the stuff, the storyline makes sense of what Vince did, but also at the same time, it's just, this is the time period we were at. Like, imagine if she had actually gone to developmental, got more experience and more training, what could have been. But it's heartbreaking for me, man, now to hear all this stuff that come out, and my heart breaks for her family. My heart breaks for her, and God rest her soul, like I mentioned, but it's just sickening. Listening to that makes me sick. It gives me that knot in my stomach when I read that affidavit that we had earlier. It makes me get that knot in the stomach from when we were talking about Vince and the text messages. It's just so horrible, and it's such a tragedy. I'll let you take it from here, man, and then I'll come back.
Okay, so I have girlfriends who have gone through, who were rape victims. I'm not going to call them out, but I do have girls who were friends who were victims of rape, and I know a few other women too in my life who have also been, victims too. I've heard their stories. I've heard them recount the experiences, even though I didn't ask, but I allowed them to vent. And hearing the pain in their voices, hearing what they went through at that moment, it both angers me and it hurts me that someone would want to do that to them. Any respect that I had left for Vince is out the door.
Uh-huh.
And it's hard for me to know that anybody in this company, if there was anybody who knew that this was going on should not be in this company anymore. And anybody in WWE in WWE and TKO should get rid of everybody who was involved in it. And if you're allowing this culture to happen in WWE and nobody called it out, then I'm not going to blame anybody, but I'm also going to not blame anybody for not speaking out. And I get it. You're going to sign an NDA and, Vince is going to pay you. And of course, WWE is going to pay you, but no amount of money is worth what you went through. So we hear women like Christy Hemme coming out and speaking about it. We hear Candice Michelle speaking about certain things that, that she witnessed while she was there. I'm going to throw out a name, China.
Yeah.
something that, God rest that woman's soul, somebody who should be in the Hall of Fame, that I believe should be indefinitely inducted by herself in the Hall of Fame, because she made her mark on her own, not just in DX, but she did it on her own. And that's another person who actually went through the motions of drug abuse because of everything that was going on in WWE. Forget the fact that she had the relationship with Triple H, but it was everything that happened after that, and maybe some of these things that actually came about that we don't know about because she's not here to talk about. We don't know if she confided in somebody like Sean Waltman as to anything that happened, or her mom, or any of her family that she may have been close with. So we until somebody speaks up, we don't know. All these women, and you mentioned from 2007, 2008, 2006, 2007, 2008, all these matches that occurred with a lot of these women who were actually in the Playboy. Including China. China back in 2000 in 01. So she got a WrestleMania match where she won the title too. So it all comes, you could see collectively the pattern that Vince has. I'm gonna push you. Hey, guess what? I saw your ass, titties, and pussy in Playboy. So again, guess what I'm gonna do? Hey, I want to see everything else. Hey, the bra and panties match, I already know what you look like under all that, but hey, everybody else, may not see it, but hey, I get to see it anytime I want to. But I'm sorry for the fucking Vince McMahon voice, but it just pains me to see that all these women were hurt. I don't know what someone like Mickie James went through. I don't know if she had if she ever experienced anything like that. I'm pretty sure she didn't, because she was a little bit higher up in that too. And Beth Phoenix is another one. I don't know. Melina, I don't know. We're only going according to what the women that have been involved and have actually spoken up about it. It's going to be interesting what else comes about. And so far what we've seen is it's not good. And the fact that this man created this culture with a lot of these officials that were there, a lot of the backstage hands that were there, and John Laurinaitis, as much as he wants to throw Vince McMahon under the bus, I'm pretty sure he he may have had a hand in it too. So we don't know. So
well, a name that came up there, Kevin Dunn. I mean, see, now he's retired. I'm sure Kevin Dunn knew a lot, as Ashley had called Kevin Dunn and told him about this. I mean, the only other person that I think, lastly, from the Vince regime that's still with WWE is Bruce Pritchard. So, who knows if Vince texted Bruce and whatnot, and if Bruce knows anything, but time will tell, man. For me, I look at this whole situation, and I'll mention another name here. Lita recently, not too long ago, mentioned on her Twitch stream, and she was doing a live, and she was talking about all this with regards to Vince McMahon. She said the night of, everybody talks about it, the live sex celebration with her and Edge, like, she didn't want to do it. And Vince said, if you don't do it, then you're fired, because this is the plan of what we're going to do. And John Cena and Edge were talking to him like, hey, why don't we just change it up and do something else? And no, Vince was very adamant on doing this because Edge is the rated R superstar. And, this is where he wanted the story to go. So you hear stuff like that. And then you see when Lita first was gone in 2006, like, he threw her bra and panties to the crowd, pal, primetime, the host sale, if you will, embarrassed her on the way out. And I got to say, this time around, she got a better exit than her first exit. But you look at Tori Wilson, who was recently on Chris Van Vliet's show, and she was talking about, hey, I went through it, I stuck it out, but doing all the bikini contests was mortifying, because all she was doing at the time, if you remember, was her and Dawn Marie, the bikini contests and the bra and panties matches. She was just like, you know what, I went through it, I did it, but it was mortifying. You know what I'm saying? And Chris Van Vliet brought up the point of, hey, the women back in the day, if you listen to how the commentary was, it was just, hey, look at how hot she is. Not for athleticism and not for the matches she would have, but hey, look how hot she is. And Chris Van Vliet said it to a very good point. That would not fly today. And a lot of the stuff that happened back in the day in the Ruthless Aggression era during that time period, even the Ads era, would not fly today. So a lot of where we are now with Triple H on board, you have Nick Khan, you have Stephanie McMahon, you have all these people, you have The Rock as board directors. We're going towards a positive direction that brings morale up and not down. So, I mean, I think time will tell, and I think there's going to be some more positive changes with this new regime.
But I think there were a lot of changes when Triple H was down in NXT, because if you notice that a lot of the women that he was hiring, a lot of the people that were hired and brought in, Asuka, Kyrie, Charlotte, Sasha, Bailey, Becky Lynch. You look at all these young women that were in there and were down there, they were changing how the perception was of what women's wrestling should be. And we are getting it more so now, because now you look at a Bianca Belair, you look at a Jade Cargill, you look at, a Shotzi Blackheart, you look at Natalya. Natalya is another name that, came up through a system. Naomi,
Rhea Ripley,
Rhea Ripley. All these women that stayed with the company, that stuck it out with Triple H down in NXT and let Vince do whatever he was doing up on the main roster. When he called them up, he had to have had noticed that, okay, we have to change something. We have to change a little bit of something, and get away from the fact that they went from that PG-13 or whatever rated R hustle, whatever the fuck you were calling it. I keep forgetting it. Ruthless aggression. Sorry, my bad. I'm blanking tonight. Man, it's late over here too, man. That's it. I'm out of here. Okay, I gotta go by. But we look at that era and we look at how far it's transitioned just from 10 years. How far it's come. Even during the last few years with Vince. I mean, we pulled away from the bra and panties matches and a lot of them disrobing themselves, for what they were doing, to what they're doing now. It's a lot, with the women's evolution that supposedly only happened one time. But I mean, it only happened one time, but that should be a yearly thing, because you need to put these women in a showcase.
Agreed, man. And I mean, what I think, to put a bow on it, really just saying, is, again, just the fact that my heart breaks for Ashley Massaro and her family, but my heart is really warm to the fact that we're not where we were back in 2006 and around that time period. And I mean, again, like we talk about the Playboy thing, and the last thing I'll say about that is, I mean, before we had acting like The Mandalorian and Sasha Banks doing that and all these for the women, back in the day it was like, hey, put them in a music video or put them in friggin' Playboy, and then you get the push. So I mean, I'll even say it, and he's a scumbag, but I mean, they had the Girls Gone Wild pay-per-view, and it was Tori and Nydia in 2003. So I mean, times have changed from the 03 to where we are now in the 2024. So I mean, hey, there's only one way to go but up.
And there's something else I wanted to touch on also. Sure. With when it comes to these women go through a lot of traumatic experiences just in general. And we talk about not only the women I know, maybe some women that maybe some women that you've been in contact with, and a lot of the women that you've interviewed over the years, and they've talked about some of the things that they've experienced and some of the people that they've come in contact with. And they talk about fans in general, that they've you discuss with them about what they're doing in their present, and sometimes they touch upon the things that they've done in their past, and then it takes a toll on a lot of us, even guys too, especially if you've witnessed things, or things have happened to you in your lifetime. It's very traumatic, and a lot of people just don't understand that it's hard to get past those moments, and it takes a lot of therapy, and it takes a lot of talking to, with people, and people that they confide in, people that they're able to confide in and talk to about these things. So it's a delicate situation, but at least it's coming out. And for any woman, or a man, or anybody that's ever gone through it, my suggestion is to get help. A lot of these traumatic episodes, that happen, continue to keep happening, and it doesn't go away overnight, and it doesn't go away, and as much as you want to put it away inside of a lockbox and go and think, oh, it'll never come up again, and then the next person that you're with, or the next person that you come in contact with, it could be something far worse. So my only suggestion is I suggest, someone get help, confide in somebody that you need to. That's the best thing best advice I can give as an adult and as a parent. I mean, someone who's gone through things in my life, and I'm just saying that, if you need help, go get help.
Amen to that. And I mean, I agree. Like with everybody that I've interviewed people in the entertainment industry, wrestling, what have you. A lot of these women go through it. I mean, whether it be through stalkers or just any individual, it's one of those things where it is a very delicate situation. It's very tolling on the body for not just women, like Paul said, but men and just individuals in general. So I adhere to his advice. Just get help, talk to somebody. Don't leave it locked away. Don't hide it, because the best thing to do is just be open. And and
you're not alone. You're not alone. You have people out there that, have gone through a lot of the same things that you have. So, find a group, find people online, who have gone through similar things that you have. There are therapists that can help you. So that's just my advice, from one person to another. If you've gone through any of these situations or anything similar, if have ever had anything traumatic happen in your life, seek help. And I'm just telling you from one person to another. So that's just my suggestion.
And I will say this, and I mean, I'm sorry, guys, if we ended on a little bit of a somber note, but that was really one of the big news stories of the week. And we mentioned a lot of the great stuff that's leading on to the road to WrestleMania and professional wrestling in general. But that was a way to end it from the somber side of things, because at the end of the day, there is a great light at the end of the tunnel, is, like Paul mentioned, help, but also at the same time, justice for Ashley Massaro. Getting to remember just an amazing spirit who was gone from us way too soon. And it's finally that somebody's speaking out and telling her story. So, I mean, God rest her soul, and just love to the Massaro family and love to her loved ones as a whole. And,
exactly.
Dude, next week, happier times call, as we will be talking about the Elimination Chamber and more pro wrestling news and notes. And, dude, I got to say, first and foremost, it's great to be back in the saddle with you, talking the weekly review and talking pro wrestling. Paul Morales, where can we follow you on all forms of social media? The floor is yours, my friend.
Well, you can find me on Michael's Pornhub, or wherever he's at. I don't know, somewhere. I like doing that to him because it embarrasses the hell out of him, because I love the hell out of him. Anyways, you can find me on that X or Twitter or whatever the hell you want to call it. RWT_Deadman. You can find me on YouTube, which is funny because Michael's going to start sending me the links so I can post this and all of our shows up on my YouTube, because apparently I ain't got nobody following me, so I might as well help out. So, anyways, same thing at RWT_Deadman all the way over there too. So Michael Larkin, the floor is yours, sir.
All righty. You can check me out, SM Show 1 or MCL92 on Twitter. Larkin
and on Pornhub. And on Pornhub.
Yes.
No, I'm just joking. Go ahead. Sorry, my bad.
Larkin_92, M Larkin MB on Instagram. You can check out StephenMikeShow.com. You can check out LFCfights.com for Beauty, Strength, and Dominance, the Lingerie Fighting Championships podcast. You can check out my YouTube, Mike Larkin92. We are halfway to 800, which keep them coming, folks. Let's get up to 1,000 by this year. Whoop, whoop. Thank you for staying again on the journey. You can just check out all these shows, the Weekly Review, Pop Culture History Podcast, Stephen Mike Show, On the Mike with Mike, LFC, all on my YouTube channel under the Mike Larkin banner and the Mike Larkin brand. And yes, Paul's YouTube will be in the description as well, so please give a subscription to follow to Paul Morales on all his forms of social media. And yeah, that's all I can say is thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We hope we hit a lot of emotions today, because that's what it's about, is evoking emotions and eliciting reactions. And we will see you next week to talk about the Elimination Chamber. And we'll know everybody. We'll know all the matches. We'll hopefully get the Grayson Waller stuff. And, so next week we will have the whole rundown and you guys will get it. for Paul Morales. My name is Mike Larkin. Thank you for listening to another edition of the Weekly Review. And early S o'clock, Perth, Australia, Elimination Chamber. Get your coffee and get everything
God
ready.
bless everybody. Fuck you, Moses.
God bless. Good night, everybody.